Chào mừng các bạn đến kênh Việt, kênh về chia sẻ kiến thức, hòa nhập môi trường mới. Mời các bạn cùng nghe.
Xin chào, tôi tên là Mai Linh, tôi 27 tuổi, tôi sống ở Bỉ. I cannot yet speak Vietnamese very well, but I want to learn it better. For convenience, I will speak now in English. The next minutes, you will hear a story about an adopted girl from Vietnam. It is my story. Adoption is sometimes seen as a fairy tale, but my story is not quite it. I am grateful for everything I have been given through my adoption, and I can't imagine life without my friends and family here. Yet, being an adoptee is not always easy, because adoption sometimes also comes with trauma, loss, fear, and sadness. So, I tell you my story to make my voice heard too. Adoption can be a beautiful thing, but it can also be a complex, difficult thing. Once upon a time, there was a woman who heard her baby crying in the street of Halong. Next to a railroad track, she found a tiny, malnourished girl in a basket. The baby was only a few days old, and she brought the orphaned baby to a police station. That little skinny baby, that was me. I was then taken to the hospital and orphanage. Then, during my first few months, I was placed in a foster home. I was given the name Nguyen Thi Tu Hong by the orphanage. So the first day of my life was summed up in a document that says I was found in September 1995 next to a railroad in the village of Hong Hai in Halong, Vietnam. In early February 1996, my adoptive father brought me to Belgium, so it was a start of a new life. I was given the name Mai Linh. My adoptive parents chose this name because they liked it. It has Vietnamese origins and it's pronounceable in a Western country. I grew up mainly in the city of Bruges. I went to school there where I spoke Dutch and kept myself busy with hobbies such as music, dance and art school. All in all, I had a good childhood. I had a lovely family, good friends, a warm home, good marks at school, everything I needed. Around me, I had people who were there for me and made me feel good. Yet sometimes I felt I was different because I grew up as a person with Asian roots in a largely white society. On the street, people shouted words like Chinese, ching chong chong, chink, reisite at me. Strangers asked me about my roots on the street, and I was often addressed in English in stores or on the street because they thought I was a tourist or couldn't speak Dutch. I encountered people who laughed at me on the street or in the store just because of my Asian appearance. Sometimes I reacted, sometimes I just ignored it, because it was just something that happened so frequently. Every week it happened several times anyway. As a child, I quickly realized that I was not like most people around me in Belgium. I was Asian and adopted. The kids in my class grew up with their biological families. I was born on the other side of the world and did not know my biological parents. I grew up with questions. Who are my biological parents? Who do I look like? What is the beginning of my story? There is some puzzle piece missing. I grew up with a dream that one day I would travel to my native country. As a child, it seems like an unattainable, dreamlike destination to me, on the other side of the world. I am someone who always likes to be busy and has many different interests. I like listening and playing music, dancing, watching movies, playing board games, gaming, drawing and cooking. I like to try out new things. Now I also want to learn more Vietnamese. In the past I took some classes in Brussels, but now I also have a busy daily life and I work and study. So I don't have a lot of time to learn Vietnamese, but every day I'm learning a little bit with an application on my phone. It's not easy if you don't have a lot of people around you to practice the language. For me, it's a difficult but beautiful language. I hope to go back to Vietnam in the future and interact with people there. I was always curious about my native country. In 2018, I went to Vietnam for the first time with my adoptive parents and brother. It was a nice trip where I could enjoy the good food and the beautiful landscapes. I visited the orphanage and the village where I was found. It was a special experience. At the end of 2018, I left for Vietnam again, but then to the south in Ho Chi Minh. I left alone for 2 months and went there to help with a project to give first aid lessons to students.
I also had time to discover other cities, and I was able to discover new things and meet new people. It was a super cool experience where I got to know myself and the country better and made good friends. The last weeks of my trip, I went back to the north of the country where I was born. During that time, I also met my foster family and the lady who would have phoned me. I was helped by a guide to understand them. However, the woman did not remember finding me and had an album of other children she had taken care of. So it made me a bit confused about the authenticity of my own story. Of course, there was also the language barrier and the cultural differences. This year I also went to Vietnam to discover more of the country, and I did a trip from the north to the south of Vietnam. It was very nice. I acknowledge my Vietnamese background because it's important to me, so I feel like a Belgian with Vietnamese roots. Now I live in Brussels. Brussels is a lively and diverse city with different cultures. There is always something to do and I'm not always seen as a tourist. I also like Brussels because there are some Vietnamese restaurants. Volunteering has always been a big part of me. When I was 16 years old, I volunteered in a youth work organization for children with and without disabilities. I was also a volunteer in the Red Cross Emergency Service and was a chief animator for youth holidays. Furthermore, I helped children with their homework and people with a disability. During the holidays, I was often a volunteer at festivals because I liked listening to music with my friends. A few years ago, I also became a volunteer of an organization for and by adoptees, A-Buddy. In this organization, we are mainly working with a chat and buddy system for adoptees where listening and support are the main focus. I enjoyed meeting other adoptees through the organization. There is connectedness present. Even though you have family and friends around you who want to help you and are there for you, sometimes another adoptee can understand a little more what you have been through or what you are feeling. A buddy helps with this and provides support. In my adoption, there are a lot of beautiful things, like getting a new warm home, getting many opportunities, but there is also sadness and early childhood trauma hidden in my adoption. So I think adoption brings a lot of wounds, sometimes even unconscious ones. For example, there is a constant mourning for my biological family, because I never consciously knew them, yet lost them. It's hard to explain. Adoption has always been a part of me and has shaped me into who I am. I would like to search for my biological family because I'm curious. I want to know the truth about my story, and I think it's my right to know my story. I sometimes think about all those stories that come out in the press about adoption fraud, about misunderstandings that have happened, and sometimes get a little sad about that. What if there are still people on the other side of the world who are missing me? I just wonder who I look like, if I have any biological family left, and why I was abandoned. I sometimes feel lonely in this, even though I have many people around me who love me. I may be looking for the people who could have loved me, but through circumstances I have not been able to. I want to know the beginning of my story. Not everyone will understand that search and that grief I experience that come with adoption, but they don't have to. I have been through it and I know what I feel and what I want. Everyone handles feelings, emotions and events differently. I want that my biological parents know that I grew up and that I'm doing my best in life. Deep inside me, it feels like a big loss for me that I don't know them and that I never had people around me who looked like me. It is sometimes difficult to explain to people who are not adopted. I'm happy with what I have here in Belgium. I have a good family and friends, and I have good chances and opportunities, but I also lost a lot. I lost my biological family, the official Vietnamese nationality, the culture of Vietnam, the language, and a search for a biological family is not easy. Maybe the story is painful, but it will still be the truth. As a child, I was often told that it would have been adopted because my biological parents could no longer take care of me. Maybe they were poor and lacked the resources. Maybe they didn't have a choice. I would understand this and show that I grew up well. But maybe it was not a story of poor parents. Every story is possible. Some biological parents did not want to leave their child. They could not care for them or they were not allowed. In my case, everything is possible. I hope that I can find the truth and get to know my biological family. Even if the beginning of my story turned out to be negative and painful, I would still like to know the truth. I could then lean on who I have become as a person. In some cases, an adoption is a positive improvement story when it's about a child who otherwise would starve or when the environment is dangerous. But in other cases, it may be about a stolen child or a child who was trafficked. Adoption is a complex issue. Though in Vietnam there are also good opportunities within the country itself, there are more opportunities than before. And these times, should a child still have to go to the other side of the world where he or she doesn't know anyone? If I would meet my biological parents, I would tell them about myself as a person, and I want to know them and see how they look like. I want that my biological parents know that I'm doing my best in life. There is a little part of me that I'm missing. My adoptive parents are supporting me in my search and help me to discover Vietnam, the country where I was born. They also wish that I find the truth and that I'm happy. They knew that an adoptive child could have questions about his roots and identity, and they always want to help me too.
I'm doing well and I'm very lucky with everything that I have. My family, a steady job, friends, hobbies, opportunities to travel. So don't stand still and I'm trying to enjoy every day. I'm grateful for everything I have and I still want to go back to my native country for a longer time because I want to discover even more of the culture there in Vietnam. I also hope to get some more answers, even though I know that the changes are very small and that it's a difficult process. I've been through a lot already, a lot of loss, a lot of pain, racism, stereotyping, but I try to enjoy the present as much as possible. And I try to be grateful for what I have and for the people around me. I take my own path and choices. Finally, I'm proud of myself and for everything I do for the others and for the world. Wanting to search does not make me ungrateful for what I have. I'm super grateful for all the beautiful things. And maybe I did not have so many chances if I was not found as a baby and put for adoption, but wanting to search does not mean I love my family less. In my daily life, I want to make them happy too. But who knows, maybe growing up in Vietnam, I would also be happy with less things. Every person has beautiful things in life and difficult things. What it means exactly to be adopted is often difficult to understand if you're not adopted yourself. Each adoptee deals with his or her adoption story differently. Each story is unique. Everyone processes it differently, and so I process it in my own way. Now I told you a part of my story, but my story does not stop here. We will see what the future will bring. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Xin cảm ơn các bạn đã lắng nghe. Hẹn gặp lại các bạn trong các bản phát sóng tiếp theo của kênh Việt. Hãy đăng ký kênh và chia sẻ với người thân, bạn bè của bạn nhé.